this heaven?
No. It's Iowa.
Ben, I got a great idea for the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting new development for podcast listeners. But you tell them, Eric.
You know how like vinyl's really big right now?
Oh yeah,
I think we should just print our podcasts on vinyl.
I actually reached out to somebody who can do it, and they do great work. They do fantastic work. There is one problem.
What's the problem?
Well, they don't. You know that how vinyl has a little hole in the middle. They don't punch the little hole. You gotta punch the hole yourself, and if you don't do it right, it can be a little bit wobbly. But other than that, this company is just fantastic.
So if you punch a hole in them, you'd have a good time.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, the record would wobble, would be a bit uneven, but you get some great podcasts at that.
What would you say if you started listening to it and it sounded all weird?
What happened? We're talking A Mighty Wind on the Pod of Dreams.
Finally, in the news tonight, the music world mourns the death of folk music icon Irving Steinblum. Steinblum managed the careers of the Main Street Singers, the Folksmen, and Mitch and Mickey.
The only fitting tribute that we could come up with was a memorial concert.
I'd like to think that Mitch would agree to do this, because I already said yes.
Where else could we have such an event at Town Hall?
We're very pleased to be having the folk people here. The acoustics are just perfect.
Well, there's a puppy in the parlor and a... You went to the record store, you knew that the new Folksman album would be one word title: itching, wishing, rambling, singing. But they had no hole in the center of the records, and
if you punched a hole in them, you'd have a good time.
Yeah.
It's just that kind.
My dad, Fred Knox, was an original Main Street Singer.
He's a dead person now, but when he was alive, he was so happy.
There had been abuse in my family, but it was mostly musical in nature.
There's a kiss at the end of the rainbow.
I must say I was in awe of Mitch and Mickey. Who was it?
Mitch was mysterious and intense.
I don't remember much.
We are so excited to be part of this project.
Oh, absolutely. It's something of a challenge for me because I don't like folk music.
Me too.
Quick plug, Ola. I'm Mike LaFontaine, owner and founder of High Class Management. Whoops!
I had a hit that you might have heard of, Hurrelegget Lille Gommen, which means how's it hanging, Grandma?
Those are lights hanging up there?
Yes, those are lights.
Could they fall?
And that's a ceiling above us.
Excuse me, I must be full.
It's like that wire. I see a wire. I see it.
Ow!
Some mighty winds are blowing across the land and across the sea. It's blowing peace and freedom.
I feel ready for a voyage on this magnificent vessel.
I love Mitch.
What if we see sailfish?
But
Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm Ben, along with Eric. This is the Pod of Dreams. If you listen, we will pod.
We're the new Main Street Singers here.
The new Main Street Pod of Dreams? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I picked this movie for a bunch of reasons, but one, I needed a little bit of a palate cleanser after David Lynch. As much as I love David Lynch, sometimes you need to counterbalance a little bit of the darkness. Now, there's a lot we could talk about, but I have two questions for you, two big questions. This is a mockumentary about folk music. So did you like the music and did you laugh? Two huge questions.
I laughed a lot. I thought this movie was very funny.
Okay, that's a good sign.
The music was interesting. I was actually very blown away. I think almost all of the actors actually played the instruments, which was crazy. Even like Jane Lynch was playing, like shredding guitar. Wasn't a lot of shredding, but
what's folk music? There's not a lot of shredding in folk music.
But she was hitting all the chords, like she was playing guitar. Not that she can't. It surprised me that every actor in this movie, even younger lady, I can't remember her name off the top. She was just in Beau is Afraid. She was in the Mariah Carey sex scene. But
Parker Posey,
yeah, she was in this movie, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. She's the drug addict who joins the new Main Street Singers.
Right. Yeah, her dad he's the dead guy.
Yeah.
Even she played guitar. Yeah, I was very impressed. Did I like the songs? I mean, they were kind of funny folk songs. I think they were intentionally funny. I don't know
they're riffing on folk music. Yeah. They were having fun with it, and they weren't quite parody, but they're goofy versions of a folk song, sure.
I did not get anything that Eugene Levy was doing in this movie. Didn't understand it. Didn't make sense to me. Was he trying to be Bob Dylan?
I think so.
Was he handicapped?
I think he was autistic.
Handicapped?
I think he was autistic. That's my best guess. I was also a little bit confused, but he's very literal in a way that I thought maybe he's just supposed to be autistic and everybody treats him as this genius, but he's really, I mean, he is a genius, I guess, maybe, but he's also just being literal. Like towards the end, right? They have the song, they're about to sing the song, Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara.
With a kiss.
Yep. And she reads the poem that he wrote her when he was in the hospital. And he says, "a drink of water." And I think he meant it literally. Everybody assumed he was joking. But I think he was just saying, "I wanted a glass of water." And everybody reads it as a joke.
Right.
Because he's very literal, I think. And even his albums after he goes solo are like, I love those album covers where he's like,
very dark.
Yes, he goes very dark. That was my only, that's it. Otherwise, it's just a weird quirk. But I assume he's just very high functioning autistic.
Also, the beginnings of Schitt's Creek, right? Those two,
Well, they're all SCTV alums, so they came out of Canada in like the 80s. They worked with John Candy a long time ago, again before they started getting
him and Catherine O'Hara are like the Schitt's Creek husband and wife as well. Okay.
Yeah. No, they're both in Schitt's Creek, but they've worked together a long time, predating even this. Well, by a long shot, this. So yeah, I mean they go back. A lot of these people go back quite a bit. But yeah, no, I was impressed by. Even if you didn't like the songs, they're really trying to we really want to accurately create folk songs that sound like real folk songs, even if the lyrics are kind of goofy and they're a little ratcheted up for the humor.
Here's my problem with this movie. I had one issue. Well, two issues. First issue is when the Spinal Tap guys are on screen, it's just fire. It's so good. It's hilarious. They're just so funny. That when we cut to,
you mean Michael McKean, Christopher Guest, and
correct.
Henry Shearer. The Folksmen is the group in the movie. Got it. Okay.
And when you cut to the other groups, I mean, including Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, it's like a step down. Now they try, and Jane Lynch has obviously gone on to do things that Michael Higgins or something like that. He's been in every fucking movie. He's great. But other than the Fred Willard stuff, and we'll talk Fred Willard because if we haven't done a movie where a guy steals a movie like Fred Willard steals this movie, I don't know what he is on when they made this movie, but absolutely hilarious.
You haven't seen Best in the Show, so
is he better in Best in Show than he is in this?
Look, I like Best in Show more than this movie. I think this movie's good and I enjoy it, but I think Best in Show is up a notch. I mean. It's the same kind of performance. Okay, put it.
He's gonna have a lot of friends in the shower room. Folk audiences hated that joke.
Yeah. So imagine the same performance, but this time he's the host of the Westminster Dog Show. It's great. It's great. It's the same kind of performance.
And I imagine it was all made up. None of those were written lines. He was probably just riffing completely.
No, there's a lot of riffing.
The what happened? All the catchphrases. I bet he just completely made up any of those. What he said was the first person to say you can't do that or something like that. What?
Yeah, no, he's incredible. He ratchets up the comedy, and as he's describing this horrible sounding sitcom from the 70s,
he spits out the water. He's like, "Oh, I guess that was full."
Yeah. Well, he's like, "Oh, the show was canceled after a year," and then it cuts to a newspaper. The show was canceled for just a total lack of interest. And he's
that's how you start a cult audience. It was okay. That's how you start a cult audience.
Yeah, he can't let it go. He's just constantly trying to bring it back. No, he's incredible. He of the 3 or 4 times I laughed pretty loudly, I think 3 of them were his, and then one was Michael McKean.
The end scene, the with the Supreme Court judge.
Oh, that show! It sounds so.
Nobody is pitched to the studio. He's like, well, they didn't really like the baby thing. They weren't being judgmental, but of course they didn't like it. There's just babies with human adult heads on them.
But then he goes with the Supreme Court idea.
The judgment, 9. Yeah.
I thought they were more than 9. I guess we lost some along the way.
It must have been budget cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a budget thing or.
And then it's just the worst sounding show. They're just sitting in the courtroom, just one person's knitting and it's just mugging the camera. And then they all get together and play music at the end of the day. It's just sounds. it's too dumb to actually exist, but it's close enough to being real that you're like, ooh, maybe a coked out executive might have liked this. So you're like, ooh, somebody would have considered this idea in the late 90s, early 2000s. So yeah, I mean, those guys were all on SNL in 1985 or 6 or something like that. They were great, and that's where they first did the Folksmen. They didn't want to do Spinal Tap again, so they did the Folksmen as a bit. And again, I think it was 84, somewhere in the mid 80s. And they were great. I mean, I saw them perform on Conan, and then they all, as the characters, chatted with Conan O'Brien afterwards, and it was very funny. They're very.
I love
good
when they were
improvisers.
pitching the weird ass song, and then they're just like, that just doesn't even make sense. It's like the beginnings of time and occult shit, and they're just like, I'm just not understanding it. Like just when they have the banter between the three of them, there's just nothing like it.
That was I mean, in the car when they're driving around, it's like, oh, you have a map, but it's not in the car. We're just gonna study it academically. Study it academically later. Yeah. I'm not giving you any grief, but
like when they're giving each other shit, it's top comedy, I think.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, that's so
because they're not mean. They're not mean to each other too. They're like so nice to each other, but they're also still razzing the shit out of each other. It's perfect.
Oh yeah, let's not point fingers about the song. Like, let's not. I don't think any finger pointing.
That's not gonna help you. Finger pointing is not gonna help us here. It's like, I got a bold idea. We just come out and do the same song. So have you been listening for the last 10 minutes? He's like,
do you want the toothpaste, or do you want the a toothpaste commercial?
We can't just do the same song. The audience would just honestly be
And
confused.
Catherine O'Hara is just playing it sweet more than comedically. Kind of the thing is that she's just a lot more sincere. And some of the comedy doesn't land. The guy that's Catherine O'Hara's husband doesn't quite work. I don't know what
the catheter shit. Yeah, it was kind of funny where she was at the convention singing her folk song. Like the juxtaposition of that was just a little funny, but
sure. Oh, sure. But and then God, what's her name? Stifler's mom. I can't think of the actor's name. Jennifer.
So okay, that was problem number 2.
Yeah,
that was problem number 2.
What's going on here?
Last episode we covered that there are a few actors I just don't care for. Jennifer Coolidge is at the top of my list of actors. Just don't care for anything she does. I don't find it funny. I don't even understand if it's supposed. I don't think she understands what she's doing. I think it's one of those things they just parade her out there and she just acts crazy and thinks that's hilarious, and people.
I didn't know her accent was. It Eastern European? And was
she supposed to be Latina? Up? I don't know. Yeah,
I couldn't tell. It went from
I didn't like it. I didn't
either. No, it was bad. It brought the movie to a halt. It was the worst. It was the worst part. I mean, Catherine O'Hara was kind of in a different movie, but I thought her performance was good. It just wasn't quite on the comedic level. I mean, I guess I agree that it wasn't on the comedic level.
Well, there was sort of, she's the emotional center, where they kiss and they're sort of reconnecting relationship.
Yeah, there's an undercurrent of sentimentality that she's really responsible for. She does all the heavy lifting of the emotion.
Yeah, because Eugene Levy is like
and the new mainstream singers are the zaniest stuff. I got some chuckles out of them. The weird color vibration stuff. We worship color. Any old person from the 89th dimension or whatever.
I didn't connect to that.
Oh, it was very stupid. I mean, I want a little more.
There's the one line where he's like, I was abused musically mostly. I was abused as a child, mostly through music. I got a chuckle out of that, but
yeah, I mean, one of the things I wanted was a little bit more fleshed out for some of the stuff. It's like, so in like a Judd Apatow movie, he doesn't cut anything. The movies are like 2.5 hours long. He just stuffs it with all the improv that he thought was so funny to shoot, and a lot of it doesn't work. This is really trimmed. This is an hour and a half. This is like get in, get out, and does not linger. I wanted a little bit more. Certainly more Folksmen, but I would have wanted more of everything.
I just wanted a movie with Folksmen. That's all I wanted.
You would have just wanted a Folksmen, or the Spinal Tap version of the Folksmen, basically.
Yep.
And cut out all the
extra album covers. It's like all one word. It's like free in or jump in or whistling. It's like, oh yeah, good stuff.
Oh, it was. Well, so I mean, you didn't like them, but I guess I don't know how. Do you like folk music in general? Do you like?
I love folk. So that was one of the funny things about it is like there was this also joke when they did their performance, the concert, where like they cut to the crowd and the crowd's like sort of like not into it, and there was the one guy's brother. So the movie centers around the producer of these three bands dies, right? Longtime producer, and his son puts on this concert for his dad. It's like a tribute concert. But his other kids, like he has another son and a daughter, they're not super into it, and his one son in particular does not care for this folk music. And they cut to him a few times, and he's just like completely bored. Right. But I thought what was funny is like this type of music, like Mumford and Sons and shit like that, is like super popular. Like hipster music now would play really well. Like this shit would be really popular now, you know, with like a hipster audience. So I like that kind of music. I really do. I'm a big folk fan. Okay.
All right. Good. I assumed you thought there was just insufficient shredding in folk to like it. You know, there's.
I appreciate the musicianship and songwriting. I mean, I love Bob Dylan. How do you not love Bob Dylan? Come on. I love
Bob Dylan. I don't have I'm not as fiercely into guitar shredding as you are. You are the most into shredding of anybody I know. You just like a good.
I like a good guitar shredding, but it's not the only thing I like.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Well, good. That warms my heart.
I contain multitudes.
Good. All right. Good. I'm glad. I mean, I was impressed with all the music. I liked it all. I mean, even the new Main Street Singers, like it's just over the top cheese, and it's supposed to be, and that's kind of what the group's going for. And I liked some of the settings, right? The new Main Street Singers are singing it like an amusement park as people just walk by, and a few people like linger and watch, and it's like, oh yeah, I got glimmers of Spinal Tap. But it was, I mean, they just spent so much effort trying to get stuff to feel right. I mean, from the NPR production, it's just spot on. And then they just have these little moments. The guy, Ed Beagley, who's watching this, is like, what if we had a big crane shot, you know?
Yeah. It's some really Scorsese nice. Shit. Yeah, it's like, I could make a couple phone calls.
that would be nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that'd be really cool. No, we don't have a crane. Yeah. No, we don't have a crane.
They're in a van outside in a PBS truck.
Like, no, right. Like we have no budget for a crane.
I didn't get his jokes. Was he supposed to be Jewish? Like he was Swedish and saying all the like Jewish phrases. I didn't get the humor there.
They were just overstating how Jewish he was. I think that he was just.
But he said he's from Sweden or something like that.
Well, there's Jews, I believe, unless as far as I understand. But I mean, he was told like I was gewollt. I mean, he was just doing all the Jewish terms. It was fine. Those jokes didn't really land with me, but that's what I think they were going for. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, not all. I mean, this is improv, and so not every joke lands. No, and there's some patches where like stuff doesn't get hit.
Yeah, you're putting shots up.
I mean, but it comes fast enough that I mean, I liked the transition to the 70s. Like we broke up the band and then we opened a shop in San Francisco, and it was a porn shop, you know, and apparently where Jane Lynch is going to end up working someday before she joins the new Main Street Singers. But it was just got the fidelity to all the experience, and it seemed like it was done by people who genuinely like folk music, even if they're poking fun at it. They really enjoyed it, and they captured like the feel of
Christopher Guest directed this, right?
Yeah.
And did he also write it? I'm just here looking at.
He co-wrote it with Eugene Levy.
Eugene Levy, right? Okay, so they created all of these bands and probably wrote all the songs, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. And they come up with like concepts for the narrative. They don't write out specific scenes, but they're like, this character has these kind of emotions.
There's not like a screenplay for the whole.
No, but there's like, here's the template. Here's the kind of character you have. Now go with it. Like, here's the baseline.
Like Jane Lynch's whole story, like I bet she made most of that up, but I thought that was pretty funny. She's pretty great in this movie.
I don't know. I mean, I like all the performances except Jennifer Coolidge is the only one I actively dislike. And not all of them work or land super well, but I like everyone. Even the small guy who's like, could I maybe take the uniform off?
Yeah.
Like
when you hit the 6th, you could take it off. It's like, well, I've been wearing it for a month.
It's like just these little moments. I want a little bit more because that guy. When Jane Lynch and the I can't think of the actor's name, but they're doing some weird color ritual.
Higgins. John Michael Higgins or something like that.
John Michael Higgins, yes. Yeah. When they're doing that, he's like staring at them and it's super uncomfortable. Like, I wanted that fleshed out a little more. Give me a little bit more about how people feel about each other in this big band. Like, you know, in your band that big, there's probably you're gonna have some people that don't like each other because it's like 11 people or however big it was. A little bit more of the tension that's kind of suppressed by the powers that be to make it fit into this. Wanted a little bit more of that. But I mean, it's pitch perfect. If you like this movie, it sounds like you at least liked it, even if you didn't love it.
I really liked it. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
You really ought to check out Best in Show.
Well, I love Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap's phenomenal. So did Christopher Guest not direct Spinal Tap? Because isn't that Rob Reiner?
Rob Reiner directed that one. but they were a big creative part of it. Obviously, they came up with the concept and they helped develop it, but it was actually directed by Rob Reiner.
Because it's literally like the first sort of mockumentary movie ever, like where
maybe
the concept of where you're talking to the camera and it's a documentary. It's what's interesting because documentary now show I don't know if you've ever seen.
I've seen the first episode, which
absolutely
I really like.
Hilarious. I love that show. But that show is literally just like documentaries that are funny. This kind of crosses the line because it's not a documentary. There's no like narrative to it. It's just all of a sudden kicks in and there's a camera following people and then they're doing this sort of confessional cutting in between those. But there's no real. It's not like a documentary at all in any real sense. There's no start and end to it. Other than it's just sort of the narrative of the movie.
It's structured like a documentary. It could. I mean,
only in that there's like voiceover and then it cuts to the confessional, but there's no overarching story to it. I mean,
the thing is about a reunion.
Who's filming that? Who's filming it? We don't ever see, or there's no reference.
That's true, but it's still structured like a documentary. Yeah, we don't know who's shooting it or why, but
it's like a magical thing where it's a documentary.
We're just documenting this reunion concert. That's what we're doing. We're seeing the start to finish. You get the cutaways. They're exactly like you see in documentary, right? To newspaper articles, photographs, callbacks. Like here's going to zoom into this as this person's talking. It's totally hits the format. It culminates in a concert. We even get the after. You get that little epilogue. Like okay, we see the concert and then the camera crew follows back.
But there's no documentarian, you know what I mean?
Of course not. That's the fictional part.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist in real world, but this could be a documentary. I mean, I've seen these documentaries that are very structured, very similar to this. You hear, here's the beginning.
Yeah, reunion. It's about a reunion concert or something.
We talk about the social impact and how things dissolved, and they were spread a little bit thin, trying to cover 3 groups, I guess. I mean, that's fair.
That would be my one complaint is we didn't need the 3 groups. Just do the 1 group. You can still have those characters kind of intermingle in between this main story, but we didn't need 3 groups.
But the improv is so spot on. Even when the folksmen are like meeting each other, like, oh, look at these fellas. I think I've worked with your sons before. It's just like dorky humor that those characters would have amongst each other, right? Like just the kind of jokes that they would make. Not necessarily because we're in a movie that like, haha, we're trying to make them like this is just the kind of stuff they would say.
I didn't think the transgender joke worked all that well. I don't know.
I mean, they stuck to it. When they did the Conan appearance, he stayed cross-dressing.
Oh, really? Did he?
Yeah,
okay.
He, as whatever Marlene or whatever the name was. I mean, they played it as authentically as possible. I saw 2 guys trying to be as supportive as they could, despite the fact that they clearly hated it. He's like, oh, it's almost poetic. And Christopher said, almost.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
Yeah, because it's like all of a sudden they have this big sort of newfound fame, and then he comes out as a woman. That would be a challenge, I think.
And he has, of course, the joke is that he has the big bassy voice, right? He does all the bass lines and the mutton
I didn't
chops.
understand that. What does he say in that song? Like E-I-O. Like what?
Are you talking about Eat at Joe's?
Is that what he says? Eat at Joe's.
Yes, it says Eat at Joe's, but the sign in the fictional world of the song, the J isn't flashing, right? It's like think of a shitty fluorescent sign, but the J doesn't light up. So it flashes eat at O's.
Okay.
The joke is that the J doesn't light up.
Yeah. Because isn't that the song where they go through and talk about all the things that are at the restaurant or something like that?
Eventually, they're going to say you can get this stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, all the kinds of food that they have. Yes. But then they do the Barnyard song, which does have E-I-E-I-O in it, I think, or whatever, like the Barnyard. Where are my cows?
Oh, yeah, all the different, and they had the audience. Yeah, that was weird. I didn't gel with that.
I didn't gel with it either. It looked be annoying.
It was somewhat Raffi-esque. Did you ever listen to Raffi or have your kids listen to Raffi?
Oh, yeah. I remember Raffi.
He was big time
folk
music, But that like turns into that sort of kids music then.
But at Borderlines, do you know who Ray Stevens is?
Cat Stevens?
No, Ray Stevens, not Cat Stevens. Different guy.
No.
Ray Stevens, he did these like goofy, kitschy joke songs. My grandpa was really into Ray Stevens, so he's like, they had a song called The Streak. Oh, yes, they call him The Streak. Woo! It's about a streaker, song about a squirrel getting loose in church, and these kind of just goofy joke songs. It reminded me of those. Very, very, very similar. No, I mean it's a mockumentary.
I suppose we have like Little Dicky now that does joke songs,
I've not seen that show, but
well, he's like a rapper too. He has a record, yeah. I'm just saying that's not a genre that's really big anymore. You know,
No, there aren't really kitschy, corny joke songs.
Funny joke songs. You know.
Yeah, they don't.
Adam Sandler was kind of the king of that. You know, his records
for sure.
were huge.
His records were very big in the '90s for sure. Oh, yeah, all my friends had it and listened to his stuff. Yeah, I mean, and this is also style. Like, so we had The Office, which did the whole documentary thing, and The Office tried really hard to justify why it was a documentary for a while.
Well, after a while, but for most of like the first couple seasons, it really didn't make any sense what was happening. Like they did eventually kind of talk about how they were making a documentary about that office, but
there's some in the earlier seasons where they acknowledge and he talks to the camera crews a little bit, and at one point the camera crew doesn't get to go back into a hospital, so it's there. But my point is that this was a style that's popularized, and now it's there in TV, but it's not in movies. I can't think of the last movie that was kind of like this. You mentioned documentary now, but I can't think of the last time we had a mockumentary movie.
Well, like Parks and Rec was even further. Like there was no reference to the fact that
they got rid of the pretense completely. Yeah. They didn't try. Like, we're just going to copy the style, and that's fine. Style works.
It works fine with me. Yeah, the style works for sure.
I don't need you to totally justify it in reality. In the same way, like if I'm seeing
what they should do?
A handheld movie, I don't need the camera to have been found.
$1 million idea. $1 million date.
Okay.
They should
do
this
for free.
A Marvel version of this with all the Marvel characters where they're like talking to the camera and, you know, referencing like a battle with Thanos and like, you know, not have action in it, just have them talk. You think that would work?
I would love to see this. Kevin Feige's not going to allow that. I'm sorry. Kevin Feige somebody told him about it just now and he murdered that idea. That sounds way too risky for Marvel.
It's better than the dumb shit they're doing now, right?
You're preaching to the choir, Reverend. I would much rather see your
I think it would work.
Fake documentary about Marvel with characters like bickering, kind of getting on each other's shit.
In the first Spider-Man movie, which I think Spider-Man Homecoming, right? Yes.
Oh, okay, sure.
The first half of that movie starts with him filming the Civil War battle, where he's got it on his phone and it's like cutting back and forth. He's just like doing a TikTok.
Oh my god, basically. I'm watching the Avengers. What's
he's like
puts
his phone. He's hold on, and then I gotta go fight Captain America. He puts his phone down, and then he's like, oh man, Captain America just like kicked my ass. Like, and then he's jumping back, and Jon Favreau's coming over to his room like that. It's kind of that version of it. I think that works really well. It's like, from my perspective, one of the best Spider-Man sequences like that's ever come out is that part.
Okay.
Anyways, we're going far from.
No, it's fine. I like your idea. I would like Marvel to take risks and do weird, different things, including make a fake documentary with characters bickering and arguing about stuff for just an hour and a half.
Like a documentary about the battle with Thanos and like.
No CGI.
No, it's just them talking about what happened and like.
Yeah, sure.
You know, news coverage.
I'd love that.
I'd love that.
Oh, absolutely, I'd love that. Sounds great. You've convinced me. I wanna watch it.
Bring back old Captain America. He's like,
talk to Kevin Feige, get it approved. I will go see it in theater. They can get my money. No, I love it. No, I like this genre. It's tough to pull, but Christopher Guest does it so accurately. I mean, Best in Show is this kind of movie, but it's a documentary.
So what other movies are? So it's Best in Show, Spinal Tap,
which is about the Westminster Dog Show, which is great, and then Waiting for Guffman, which I've not seen. I mean, I hadn't seen this one before.
Heard good things about it.
Yeah, it's a play on. There's an old play called Waiting for a Godot, which is about these characters sitting around waiting for somebody called Godot who never shows up. Spoiler alert. So these characters interact. I have no idea what goes on in Waiting for Guffman, but it's a version of that. But these
Waiting for Guffman was his first directorial debut. Wait, no, that can't be right.
I thought it was later. I could be wrong. I thought Waiting for Guffman was...
did this movie come out in 2003?
Yes.
It did. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Waiting for Guffman is his first, 1996.
Oh, so okay, Waiting for Guffman. Oh, you're right. Okay, I was way off. I thought it was later.
And Almost Heroes, Chris Farley's last movie was his follow-up as director. You know what's funny is Christopher Guest is in A Few Good Men. He's like the doctor, the lactic acidosis.
He's in a lot of stuff.
Acidosis, and he's like not funny at all in that movie.
No, he's a serious actor. He's in The Princess Bride. He's the guy with 6 fingers in Princess Bride. That's Christopher Guest.
Oh, yeah.
So he's in stuff.
He looks so different in that movie.
He's a guy who can really transform and do stuff.
Yeah. The all-time greatest joke I think in the history of movie is the turning it to 11 on the speaker. Like, I think one of the funniest jokes ever written.
Oh, For Your Consideration. I've seen that. Okay, which is, I mean, his last one that's really like, he's got 4 movies that are really in this same kind of style. The mockumentary, For Your Consideration was okay. It wasn't horrible, but it was, of the 3 I've seen, it's by far the weakest. It's not one I'd recommend. I would recommend heavily Best in Show for you.
Do you like Best in Show more than Spinal Tap?
No. Spinal Tap's just about perfect. Best in Show is great. It's got Jennifer Coolidge in a role you probably wouldn't like. It's not as bad as this one. This one's worse. But Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara play a married couple, and they're great. The whole thing, it's about the absurdity of pet ownership, and oh man, another scene I really liked when the guy's on stage worried about the set. I can't think of his name, but the son, right? He's putting on the show.
Yeah.
He's like, what are those 2? I see wires on the ceiling. He's like, oh, and the guy who runs the venue is like, oh yes, and that's a ceiling above us, and ends up slapping him. It's like that got me to giggle. It's just
it's
so
like
anxious.
with that he calls them what did he call them? He said no, they're what do you call them, costumes or something like that? What did he call the decorations? He's like, they're not decorations, they're part of the set.
Right.
And he's like, well, why is it flat? He's like, well, from the back it looks 3-dimensional. He's like, no, it shouldn't be flat.
Can it be right next to a 3D? Was that an actual lamppost?
Yeah.
Yes, at one point I think it was. Can a real object be next to one that's flat?
My only problem with that scene is it was clearly like green screened. I don't know why they couldn't film it in the orchestra hall, but they must not have been able to get it that day or something. But it looked really fake.
Oh, sure. Okay, fair enough. I didn't notice that, but it would stand out. A movie that for the most part is shooting real things really accurately. Anything that's faked is really sticks out.
They must have filmed it in that orchestra hall because we see it. They just, for whatever reason, that scene, they must not have had it or something.
No, I mean, the characters they perform.
When the guy sings Ave Maria, like, behind him, it looks really fake.
Oh, okay.
The acoustics in here are great. Then he starts singing.
Yes. He dreamed of being a singer, but instead he runs the stage and the building.
But I don't think we talked to Fred Willard enough. Have we given it justice?
Well, if anybody's seen Anchorman, if anybody's seen Best in Show, he alone probably is worth the price of admission for this movie.
You will read the copy as it's written, Miss Corningstone. Like, it's just his voice is.
No, he's instantly goofy and absurd. Like, I could never see him in a dramatic role. Like, it wouldn't work. I couldn't take him seriously. But in this, like, it's just instant comedy. Just like, this guy is such a doofus and just also brazenly confident, right? He's like both dumb and confident, which can be a great toxically hilarious comedic mix. And everybody around him, he's talking at the who shot they're getting an award.
Didn't shoot the deputy.
Wasn't me. And you can just and everybody reacts to him seriously. You see the deputy.
Yeah, the mayor hands him the thing, and he just like he wasn't meant to speak at all, but he just
you can just see that
he pushes his way in there and gives this whole speech.
It was a rambling, insane speech that nobody cares about, but everybody's too polite to like stop him.
Right.
So everybody just takes it. No, it's great because everybody, for the most part, reacts to him normally. No, it's really good stuff. So. Well, I'm glad that I got another movie that you liked. I'm happy this is one you haven't seen before, so I'm glad that I at least found something that's a generally a thumbs up for Eric Lane. And I would say, I'm going to need to watch Waiting for Guffman. It's the last of the 4 that I haven't seen, but this is really good. It's not quite as good as Best in Show, but I like the music a lot. I liked it more than you. I enjoy it because to me it was very much. I felt the love too. I mean, they're poking fun, but this is somebody who also understands and gets the bands and likes them generally, which is how I think they were able to be so accurate with, I think, the style of music.
Yeah, I think the Catherine O'Hara Eugene Levy song is like pretty authentically. So I mean, it's supposed to be like a touching song, and the kiss. I know there's that joke in there, but I really think it was played to be like, whoa, this is like pretty heavy, Like,
no, that's a dramatic moment.
They cut to the people who were like, oh, when they kissed, that kiss was like the biggest thing in the world, whenever they kissed on whatever show it was. But like then to see the reunion and them have the actual kiss, like that was like kind of touching. It really was.
Well, it was. It worked. All of that, the emotional beats worked because that wasn't supposed to be funny. You see, like Michael Keane's like, oh, I know
and the
this
song's not funny either. The song was like, I think, written as like a true folk love song. It
was right. It was nominated for an Academy Award, and I think it's a great song.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, that was the one I referenced in the clues last time.
Sure.
And you see everybody's like, what is going to happen? Are they going to kiss? And everybody comes back and wants to see, are they going to kiss or not?
Yeah.
And that's the only like real bit of drama in the movie is like, will they kiss or not? And they do, and it's sweet and it works, and the crowd likes it and it's fun. And then they all do a big number, and the number at the end isn't really all that funny. It's just celebratory. They're celebrating folk music, the one where everybody comes on stage and plays. Like, they're not trying to be funny with that. It's like, hey, we like this music. Yeah, it faded away because all music genres fade away, really. But now it's like retro and it's fun. And
what was the retro joke? It's like if we had done it then, that would have been retro. Doing it now, it's an outro.
Or if we did it then, it would have been outro. Now it's retro, but then it's also kitschy and not, they're arguing about what to wear. No, it was great. I mean, my biggest thing is, I would have wanted more of the movie. Yes, cut out Jennifer Coolidge. Her role
to do it now would be retro. To do it then was very outro.
Yeah. It's just a great bit of riffing from those guys who've done improv together for a long time and really, really great. And I also every
they're
time
not quite as good as the Pot of Dreams, but they're close. I mean, we're probably
they'll
top
get a
tier
level someday.
improvers.
And Harry Shearer, I always hear Principal Skinner, from The Simpsons. I just can't ever escape that. Like, when I close my eyes for a second, it's like, no, maybe it's the kids who are out of touch because he's just got that distinct bassy voice. But I mean, they spend so much time on the outfits and the costumes and the looks of the characters. And I generally, again, liked every character, even the dopey ones. It's just very good. And just Eugene Levy having a conversation with the guy who's like, no, you got to show up. It's a process, one day at a time. And there's just people having hardcore sex in the room next door, and they just look at each other awkwardly, like nobody knows what to say. And that works comedically. Like, nobody needs to say anything witty. It's just two characters like, oh, I don't know what to do. They're very loud and aggressive next door. But hey, I mean, what rating would you give this? Where are we at here?
See, I vacillated between 3.5 and 4. I'd probably settle on a 4. Spinal Tap's probably a 5-star comedy, I think.
It's flawless. What's the flaw with?
So I mean, this isn't as good as Spinal Tap.
No, I agreed.
Yeah,
and it's not as good as Best in Show either. And it's weird.
Probably maybe 3.5. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's probably 3.5. Comedy's tough. Comedy's tough because like, do the jokes work? And for the most part, they did. I found it funny and I enjoyed it. It was kind of an interesting movie, and it's music. I love music, and so yeah, I mean 3.5, 4 in that range.
Yeah, it's interesting because you got me rehyped for it because this movie, like, I really enjoyed watching it. I had a great time. I was like, man, I laughed. I felt for the characters. I was like, man.
Actually, Fred Willard brings it to a 4-star just for his, and he's hard. See, that's the other thing is whoever is deciding to put Fred Willard in these movies, they use him the exact right amount.
Correct.
I think any more would maybe be too much, but whenever he pops up, he's in like 4 scenes of this movie. He's so great. So 4 for Fred Willard.
Okay, yeah, and that's the thing is like they do get the balance generally right. I mean, I know you want more folksmen, but like, okay, they did a pretty good job. I guess if the new Main Street Singer stuff didn't land as much, okay. But they really tried to balance it out pretty well, and they get the right amount of Fred Willard, you get the right amount of sentimentality with Catherine O'Hara's character. Yeah, Eugene Levy's performance, it's tough to quantify, but I just think he's autistic.
I just didn't get it. I
was like, this guy's got to be autistic. That's the only explanation is he's playing a man who's literally autistic. That's the only thing that makes any sense because he's very, very literal and just describes things in a very rudimentary way. But his is jarring. I mean, I guess I am a little ambivalent about his performance because it is tough. But I enjoyed watching it, and then it kind of escaped my mind. It kind of got a little ephemeral. I kind of had to like talk myself into a lower rating. Now you talked about it again. You got me hyped up. So I will go 4. I was going to go 3.5, but you kind of talked me up to a 4. I mean, this is really good. This is a 20-year-old comedy. I mean, this movie came out 20 years ago, and I got some real laughs out of it. Yeah. Even a few laughs is probably enough to me to justify being a good movie. And I got
had you not seen this before?
Correct. I have not seen it before.
All right. So it was a first-time watch for you.
That's part of why I was like, I love Best in Show. Why not check this out? I think it'll be great. That sounds up my alley, and I think these guys are good. And that performance on Conan was great. I mean, it was genuinely funny, and their cover of "Start Me Up" was great. They did a folk cover, Start Me Up, and it's worth a watch on YouTube. If you do Folksman, Start Me Up. You like Folksman, you'll like the Conan. You like the song and their appearance afterwards. It's really great stuff. But I'm glad you liked it. It makes me happy. My favorite thing isn't arguing with you, Eric. It's finding a movie that you haven't seen before that you like. That's the best part of this. So I'm glad.
I can't do my work.
What happened?
What happened? I got the wet wig again. I don't know what that one was. Hilarious.
And people would laugh, and it just people thought that was so funny. It's like, man, this guy is.
Got a lot of
It's the little things. The way he whispers, like I was on a show in 1974.
I just
he does that. Like, okay, buddy. Yeah, I'm so glad you didn't say the year. We thought you were a young guy, and you kept us with that. It's just great. So yes, a strong recommend. It's not streaming or you got to pay for it, but it was $3 or whatever, well spent. I had a good time. And it's an hour and a half. It's not super long. Strong recommend. But Eric, I need to figure out what are we watching next.
Okay, I will give you some clues. See if you can guess it. And we'll go from there. I think so. Are we going to announce we're going to have a little bit of a hiatus?
Sure. Yep. All right. Yeah, we're going to take a little break. We're transitioning to, it's getting to be football season, so we're going to transition to spending a little more time and energy talking Big Ten football. So if you're a big fan of Big Ten football, that's coming back. If you're not, sit tight. We're just hibernating. Football will end, and we'll be back to talking about movies. Well, but
I think we've officially called this season 2 of the Pod of Dreams. So we'll take a break, and then we'll probably finish season 2 towards the end of the year, and then maybe start season 3. Is that happening? Maybe.
I hope so.
Stay tuned.
I want more.
But yeah, the same feed, right? Same stream feed, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Same
if you listen,
time.
We'll pod.
If you listen, we'll keep podding. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Keep listening, we'll keep podding. Okay. All right. Well, so we'll announce what our next movie is. So if you're listening to this in sequence, if you going through the whole catalog, which most people do, the thousands of people that listen to this are, mostly
going through
you want to do it in sequence.
A lot of completions, right?
You want to do it in sequence.
Episode 1, get yourself to episode 67 or whatever episode we're on. Oh yeah.
Yep. So for our next episode, I'll give some clues. Ben's gonna try to guess it, play along or not. But here we go. Clue number 1. We kind of always do the year that the movie is released. This movie was released in 1973.
Woo, we're going way back. Okay. All right. Well, I could make a guess, but I'm not going to guess. I need more.
All right. Okay. So this movie is based on a novel.
Okay.
Okay. A direct sequel is being released this year in 2023 to this movie.
A direct sequel from the movie.
It will be a direct sequel.
Okay. Tickle Me Pink. I don't know.
No. So did that throw you off?
Yeah, I have no idea. No, I have no idea.
Okay. So. Sorry, hold on a second. So this movie was actually released the day after Christmas in 1973. I don't know if that's a separate clue or continuation of the first clue, but famously released the day after Christmas.
Okay.
Adjusted for inflation, this movie made more money than The Godfather, which was released 2 years before it.
Okay. Nope.
Still no guess?
No.
Okay, well, was that 5 clues or?
4, I think that was 4. I think, give me one more.
One more clue. So, alright. Stephen King once said that this movie symbolizes Vietnam.
Symbolizes Vietnam.
Symbolism for Vietnam, or a metaphor for Vietnam. And the Watergate scandal. That actually probably throws you off more than gets you closer to.
What in the world? It's obviously it's not about Vietnam necessarily. Maybe it is, but anyways, it's symbolism. So it's not about Vietnam.
Yeah, it symbolizes Vietnam. It doesn't star. At the time, it didn't star any famous actors.
Okay.
The director of the movie just died. Like yesterday.
Uh-oh, I don't think I know who this director that just died is. Tell me, who's the director?
William Friedkin?
Is this The Exorcist?
The Exorcist, yep.
Hasn't there been a bunch? Haven't there been a bunch of sequels?
Right, this is what's confusing. So, David Gordon Green, the guy that did the Halloween movies, right, the reboots, the ones that just came out.
Oh, God. No thanks.
He made it so as if they were direct sequels to the original Halloween, excluding all the other ones that came out. He's doing the same with the Exorcist movie. So this Exorcist movie that actually comes out in September of 2023, you maybe have seen previews for it, I have, is supposed to be a direct sequel from the first one without reference to any of the actual sequels that came out.
So not Exorcist 2, The Heretic, or whatever the sequel is.
Which I've
called.
never seen any of the Exorcist
I've not
sequels.
seen, no, and I don't need to see. They made the perfect Exorcist movie in 1973. I don't need any more.
Let's talk about it. Let's discuss
Spoiler alert, I love the movie. I'm excited to talk about it. I don't need any
William
sequels.
Friedkin just died yesterday. So I thought, what a perfect time. Plus the sequel's coming out. It has a lot of synergy. I haven't seen it in a very long time. I think arguably the scariest movie maybe ever made.
Oh, this movie's never scared, but it's fine. We'll talk about it. This movie's never really scared me all that much, but I love it. It hasn't really... I didn't see it at a time when
maybe
I would freak me out.
the greatest horror movie ever made? I don't know.
Depends.
In the conversation.
Sure, some people would say that. I know some people that love it. Some people would say The Shining. Some would say there's a whole long list of movies that would get consideration. No, Exorcist. All right, great. I haven't seen The Exorcist in a while. Great excuse for a rewatch.
So just reading Wikipedia, there's some interesting things about when it was released. Like I said, the day after Christmas, which was kind of a tricky thing when there's satanic rituals and exorcisms.
Back when people
involved.
were way more bothered by this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now there's been a bazillion knockoff Exorcist movies.
Well, and
the
also
Exorcism
how
of Eric Lane.
Gigantic hit this movie was. Like insane how much it made, how much money it made. Ran in the theaters for over 2 years, I believe. Crazy.
Oh man, what a time to be alive when movies can do that.
Well, we might be approaching that because of the writer's strike. I've heard that maybe and the actor's strike that maybe they're not going to release any new movies. So like Barbie and Oppenheimer and Mission Impossible and all those movies are going to stay in the theater for a very long time because nothing's going to be released because they can't promote it. So there's no talk shows and the actors can't go on whatever to promote it. So
okay, fascinating.
Anyways,
all right.
The Exorcist. I think it's not streaming anywhere. I have a DVR from Turner Classic Movies, which is how I'm going to watch it. But
you're going to fast forward through the commercials?
Well,
they're not doing commercials.
TCM's great. They don't. It's the theatrical releases. They often don't do commercials. You got the intro by what's the guy's name? The TMC guy or TCM guy, whatever. He does like an intro and talks about the history of the movie. It's great. And he does like a thing at the end of the movie. I love it. Big fan of Turner Classic Movies.
Okay. Sounds great. All right, so when we meet again, The Exorcist. Bye, everybody.
What happened?
You can't say that.